Well, hi. Today is Tuesday, December 23rd, 2025. I'm Todd Studer, and this is Morning Coffee. And a programming note, we will not have a show on Christmas Day. However, I am not one of those people who will have the 26th off. I'll be working, and I'm going to bring you a show coming up this Friday. So, again, just make a note of that. When people ask what it is that I do and I tell them that I'm a podcaster, I get asked a lot of questions. You know, the first time someone asked me how to start a podcast, it caught me a little bit off guard. Because we were not in a studio. We were not at an event. We were standing in line for coffee. They just kind of said it casually like they were just thinking out loud. You know, I've been kicking around this idea of starting a podcast and about just what's going on around here. What should I do first? And I paused. Probably paused a little bit longer than they were expecting because I really didn't have an answer. Well, that's not true. I did have an answer. I had a lot of answers, had too many answers. None of them felt right in that moment. You know, I could have talked about formats. I could have talked about scheduling. I could have talked about all the things that I learned the hard way. But what stopped me was realizing how often people ask that question expecting instructions. What they really need is perspective. Because starting a local podcast is really, it's not hard to explain. Staying with one is. More to come. Good morning. Start with peace of mind, and My Nurse Healthcare provides professional in-home support where it matters most, helping individuals maintain comfort, dignity, and independence in their daily lives. Their experienced nursing team focuses on personalized care, clear communication, and supporting families through every step of the process. It is healthcare built on trust, compassion, and real relationships. Learn more about My Nurse Healthcare and their services at mynursehealthcare.com. If you're looking for a laid-back spot with great food and even better company, it's the Mile Away in Council Bluffs. They're going to have reduced hours this week because it's a holiday week. They will not be open on Christmas Day. They're also never open on Mondays, but they're a great place to go for lunch. I hope you come out and join me weekdays from 11 to 2. And don't forget, ball games, breakfast available on the weekends, just a wonderful atmosphere that feels like home. And you can find them online. Just follow the Mile Away on your favorite social media account or stop in person. They're located on Old Lincoln Highway, just north of Council Bluffs. If you have a leak, a clogged drain, or if you're planning a big remodel, Waldstein Plumbing in Council Bluffs has you covered with fast, reliable service and expert craftsmanship, handling everything from small repairs to major installations. They're locally owned and trusted and take pride in doing the job right the first time. Residential or commercial, big or small, when plumbing problems strike, visit waldsteinplumbing.com. And Morning Coffee brought to you by Steve Erlob, your Edward Jones financial advisor in Council Bluffs. Learn how he can help you reach your financial goals. Visit edwardjones.com for more. Edward Jones, member SIPC. Well, I've watched people jump into podcasting, just full of energy, and they disappear 6 months later, sometimes even faster. I've seen others quietly keep going, episode after episode, slowly becoming part of the fabric of the community without ever setting out to do that. The difference was never talent, it's not personality, and it's not even opportunity, it's mindset. So, instead of giving that person a list in the coffee shop, I asked them a question. Why? Why do you want to do it? They gave a good answer. It was a thoughtful one, but as they talked, I could hear the part that they had not said yet, the part that matters most. That moment is what this conversation always brings me back to, because if you're thinking about starting a local podcast today, just like this podcast, there are things you can learn later. There are skills that will come with time. There are mistakes that almost everyone, including me, makes. But there are a few things you need to understand before you ever hit record. And I would first listen. That alone already puts you ahead of most people who want to start something like this. Listening is the entire job. And yet, it's the part people skip over because it doesn't feel productive. It doesn't feel like progress. It doesn't feel like action. But local podcasting is not about action. It's about attention. So before I would say anything about how to do it, I would want to understand what pulled them toward the idea in the first place. Not the polished answer, not the one shaped by podcasts they admire or clips they've seen online. The honest reason that made that idea stick in their heads. Because the truth is, a local podcast is not something you start. It's something you enter into. You're stepping into an ongoing conversation that already exists in your community. You didn't create it. You're not in charge of it. You're being invited into it, whether you realize that or not. If you approach it with the mindset of starting something new, you will miss that. If you approach it with the mindset of joining something already happening, you will do it very differently. That difference matters more than any technical choice you'll ever make. First, understand that you are borrowing trust, not building an audience. This is the place I always start because it changes everything else. People talk about building an audience as if it is a resource you can generate through effort alone. In local media, that's not how it works. And I don't care if it's podcasting, if it's newspapers, if it's radio, television. It's not how it works. You are borrowing trust that has been built over years, sometimes generations, long before you arrived with a microphone and an idea. When someone agrees to sit down with you, they're not just agreeing to talk. They are agreeing to be seen through your lens. They are agreeing to let you carry their words into spaces they may have never entered themselves. This is not a small thing. They are trusting that you will represent them fairly, that you will listen all the way through before responding, that you will not cut corners for the sake of a better clip or a cleaner narrative. This kind of trust is not given because of credentials or confidence. It's given because of reputation, even if that reputation is still forming. Here's the part most people miss. Trust is not built once. It is renewed or weakened every single time you show up. The way you greet people, the way you introduce them, the way you handle moments that are emotional or awkward, the way you respond after the episode is over, all of it adds up. If you treat local podcasting like content creation, people are going to feel that. If you treat it like relationship building, they'll feel that too. Only one of those creates something that lasts. Second, consistency matters more than confidence. A lot of people delay starting because they say, I'm just not ready. They want to feel confident first. They want to feel like they know what they're doing. Others start quickly and stop just as fast because they expected confidence to show up automatically once they began. Both misunderstand how confidence actually works. Confidence is not a prerequisite. It's a byproduct. It grows out of repetition, out of showing up when you don't feel especially sharp, out of recording conversations that are fine, not great, and letting them be fine. Local audiences are not looking for perfection. They're looking for reliability. If you say you're going to be there, be there. If you say you're going to tell local stories, keep doing it even when the response is quiet. Consistency sends a signal that goes beyond the episode itself. It tells people that you are not just experimenting, that you are not just trying on to see if it works, that you're committed enough to stay when it feels ordinary. That matters more than confidence ever will. Third, patience. It's not optional. It is the work. Local podcasts do not explode. They settle in. They become familiar. They become part of the background rhythm of a community. That kind of presence takes time, and there's no shortcut. If you are measuring success week to week, you're going to miss it. Local impact reveals itself over months and years, not days. You'll do episodes that, they feel important and you hear almost nothing afterwards. You'll do others that feel simple. Later realize they mattered more than you thought, because patience is trusting that the work is doing something even when you can't see it. It means understanding that growth often shows up sideways, through conversations, through referrals, through people who've been listening quietly for a long time before ever reaching out. If you need constant affirmation, this work's going to drain you. If you can accept delayed feedback, it'll sustain you. Fourth, you are not the main character. This is a difficult adjustment for people who are used to being the voice in the room. A local podcast is not about you being interesting. It's about you being interested. Your job is not to perform, it is to make space. That means asking questions you genuinely want answers to, not questions designed to steer the conversation where you think it should go. It means allowing people to finish their thoughts without jumping in to fill silence. Silence is not a failure. It's often where honesty shows up. When you stop trying to impress people, conversations deepen. When you stop trying to sound smart, people open up. When you let go of control, you gain trust. The most meaningful moments are rarely the most polished ones. They're the moments when someone feels safe enough to speak plainly. Fifth, respect the community you are entering. Even if you've lived there your entire life, there are parts of the community you do not fully understand. Every town has history. Every town has relationships that predate you. People remember who showed up during hard times and who disappeared when things got uncomfortable. Respect shows up in details. It shows up in how you pronounce names, in whether you do a little homework before sitting down with someone, not to interrogate them, but to honor their time. It shows up in how you handle disagreement and whether you are curious or defensive, and whether you treat opposing viewpoints as threats or as realities. You don't have to agree with everyone. You do have to treat people fairly. Respect also means knowing when not to speak. Not every issue needs your commentary. Not every situation needs a microphone. Sometimes the most respectful choice is restraint. I've done it many times here on this show. Sixth, your role is to reflect, not to fix. It's tempting to feel like you need to solve problems or offer conclusions. Resist that urge. A local podcast does not exist to fix a community. It exists to reflect it. When you try to fix, you create pressure. When you reflect, you create understanding. People are capable of drawing their own conclusions. They don't need you to tell them what to think. They need you to help them hear each other more clearly. Reflection builds trust. Fixing builds resistance. Seventh, learn to measure success differently. If your only measure of success is numbers, this will eventually disappoint you. Local impact is often invisible to metrics. It shows up in quieter ways. Might be a thank you message, a follow-up conversation, someone feeling seen. Those moments matter more than spikes in attention. And over time, the numbers often follow, but they should never lead. Eighth, be prepared to outgrow your original idea. The podcast you imagine at the beginning is not going to be the one you're doing a year from now. You're going to learn what fits. You're going to learn what doesn't fit. You'll learn what you care about most. Allow the show to evolve. Growth is not abandoning your vision. It is refining it. Ninth, protect your integrity fiercely. Trust is your most valuable asset. Once it's compromised, it's almost impossible to recover. Do not promise things you cannot control. Do not blur lines that should stay clear. Do not trade integrity for momentum. People respect boundaries even when they don't say it out loud. Finally, remember why local stories matter. Local stories remind us that our neighbors are more than headlines. That progress is built slowly. That community is something we participate in, not consume. If you can hold on to that, you can show up with humility, patience, and respect, you will already be doing the work that matters. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be loud. You just need to be present. That is what I would tell someone who wants to start a local podcast today. And if they listen to nothing else, I would hope that they remembered this. This is not about building something new. It's about becoming part of something that already exists. That is where I would start. S&B Country Kennel, the top spot in Southwest Iowa when you need to know your dog will receive only the best. Boarding, daycare, grooming, self-washing, training, and even a membership available to a dog park over an acre in size. S&B Country Kennel also has rescue dogs, so check with them about adoption possibilities. We're going to get Joe back on the show very soon. And I'm crossing my fingers that he brings one of those dogs with him. S&B Country Kennel, that's country spelled with a K, located just west of I-29 on Bungie Avenue, south of Council Bluffs. If you're planning a wedding, a special event, you need to see the Acres, one of the most flexible and beautiful venues around, with acres of space for ceremonies and receptions. A big outdoor patio, cocktail tables, and fire pits. You're going to get full catering freedom with no extra fees, plus a flat rate that includes setup, teardown, cleaning, tables, chairs, and even a bartender. You can BYOB with zero stress. The team makes everything smooth so your day feels completely yours. And right now, the Acres has great end-of-year deals. Schedule a tour at theacresvenue.com. Well, if you're looking for a new job as you head into the new year, or maybe just a part-time job to get you by and you like driving, you know you can get paid for it. As a first student bus driver, you'll work short hours and earn a competitive wage while making a difference in the lives of children. And that pay starts with a sign-on bonus. Fully licensed drivers get a sign-on bonus of $4,000. Now, if you don't have your CDL yet, that's fine. They're going to help you get it. And $3,000 sign-on bonus once your CDL is obtained. Plus, every driver gets on-the-job training. Don't wait. Apply today at workitfirst.com. Well, that's the answer to the question, how do you start a podcast? I hope you gained something from it. I am a big believer in just sharing information. If you ever have any more questions, feel free to reach out. I'd love to talk to you. toddstuder@gmail.com. That's going to wrap up today's show. Tomorrow's Christmas Eve, and we will be back with another episode of Morning Coffee. I'm Todd Studer. We'll see you then.